Imagine being just 16 years old, left in the care of a near stranger, trusting that you'll be safe. Instead, that trust is shattered, and your life descends into a nightmare so cruel, it becomes one of the most disturbing crimes in American history. This is the heartbreaking and terrifying true story of Sylvia Likens. Sylvia Marie Likens was born on January 3, 1949, in Lebanon, Indiana. She was the third of 5 children in a working-class family. Her parents, Lester and Betty Likens, were carnival workers, which meant they were always on the move. Friends described Sylvia as shy and polite, a pretty girl who was a bit insecure about her missing front tooth. She loved roller skating and was incredibly close to her younger sister, Jenny, who had polio and wore a leg brace. Because their parents traveled so much for work, Sylvia and Jenny often stayed with relatives or trusted families. It was a normal part of their lives. But in the summer of 1965, that routine took a tragic turn. Their parents decided to leave them with someone who would become their worst nightmare, Gertrude Benishevsky. Gertrude was 37 years old, a single mother to 7 children, struggling financially and emotionally. In July 1965, Sylvia's father, Lester, met Gertrude and made an arrangement. He would pay her $20 a week to care for Sylvia and Jenny at her home on East New York Street in Indianapolis. On the surface, it seemed like a good solution. The house was a modest 2-story home, and for a short while, things were normal. Sylvia and Jenny helped with chores and even went to church with the Benishevsky family. But then, a weekly payment from Lester arrived late, and something in Gertrude snapped. She began to single out Sylvia, blaming her for the family's money problems, accusing her of things she never did, and punishing her with increasing severity. Started with humiliating chores and being denied food. But soon, the verbal abuse turned into unimaginable violence. What's truly chilling is that Gertrude didn't act alone. She encouraged her own children, and even kids from the neighborhood, to join in on the torment. Sylvia became a scapegoat, trapped in a house that had transformed into her personal prison. The next 3 months were a descent into hell. Sylvia was beaten daily with whatever was on handbelts, paddles, and even burned with cigarettes. Often denied food, she grew terribly malnourished, sometimes forced to eat scraps from the garbage just to survive. Gertrude fueled the abuse by spreading vicious rumors that Sylvia was promiscuous, using these lies as a justification for even more degrading and humiliating acts. Her younger sister, Jenny, was also abused, but was paralyzed by fear, terrified that if she spoke out, the punishment would only get worse for both of them. By October 1965, Sylvia's body was failing. She was covered in over 150 wounds, bruises, burns, and deep cuts. She could barely walk or speak. In a moment of heartbreaking clarity, she told her sister Jenny, "I know you don't want me to die, but I'm going to die, I can tell." On October 26, 1965, after 3 months of unspeakable torture, 16-year-old Sylvia Likens collapsed from her injuries and died. When Gertrude realized what had happened, she tried to create a cover story, claiming Sylvia had run away and returned injured. But Sylvia's body told the true horrific story. When police arrived at 3850 East New York Street, they were met with a scene of pure horror. They found Sylvia's emaciated body in the basement. The walls themselves seemed to echo her suffering. Gertrude Benishevsky, several of her children, and some neighborhood kids were arrested. The trial that followed was one of the most shocking in Indiana's history. The gruesome details of the abuse left the jury and the public speechless. Gertrude was ultimately convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Several of her children and other accomplices received lesser sentences for their roles in the crime. But the story has another shocking twist. Despite the heinous nature of her crime, Gertrude Benishevsky was paroled in 1985 after serving just 20 years. She lived the rest of her life quietly and died in 1990. The story of Sylvia Likens sent shockwaves across America. Newspapers called it the single worst case of child abuse in Indiana's history. It forced people to ask a difficult question. How could such prolonged torture happen in a normal neighborhood without anyone stepping in? Some neighbors later admitted they heard screams but chose not to get involved. This case sparked a national conversation about collective responsibility and the urgent need for better child protection laws. To this day, The Sylvia Likens case is studied in criminology and psychology courses as a devastating example of mob mentality, bystander apathy, and the dark potential of human cruelty. Though her life was tragically cut short, Sylvia Likens left behind a powerful and enduring legacy. Her death served as a wake-up call, leading to significant reforms in Indiana's child welfare programs to prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. Today, Sylvia is remembered not just as a victim, but as a symbol of resilience and a stark reminder of what happens when good people turn a blind eye to evil. In Indianapolis, a memorial plaque honors her memory, and its words serve as a solemn promise for the future. This plaque will serve to forever remind us that we must always take care of our children. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into cases that have shaped our world. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.
Subscribe for a mind rush.